So Atlanta is a show created, executively produced, and starring the actor, writer, musician, comedian Donald Glover. The show is almost entirely directed by Hiro Murai, and this man is just genius. Like, he's worked with David Guetta and Earl Sweatshirt and our very own Childish Gambino. And pretty much, if you've seen the short film Clapping for the Wrong Reasons, starring Donald Glover, which Hiro Murai directed, it pretty much just shows like the beauty and the monotony of life, and it just makes everything very simple. It's not too script heavy, and that, you know, there's no real meaning to everything, much like life, where there doesn't need to be a meaning to everything. The show's really prevalently through Atlanta. And also, Donald Glover writes a lot of the episodes, and he has a short film on Complex called Chicken and Futility, where pretty much just him, I think his brother, and maybe his manager, I believe, are just sitting around, and Donald's talking about how he would want to learn how to roll a joint and everything, and they're talking about why is Chick-fil-A closed on, like, Chick-fil-A shouldn't be closed on Sunday, and all that sort of thing, like why are they always hungry for it on Sundays and all that sort of thing. And it's just very much just pointless conversation, but we see it. And that's what's interesting about both of their writing and directing styles, is that they very much just want to show you life, not necessarily like a piece of art, but in a way it is a piece of art because it is life. So the show follows Ern Marks, and his life's kind of a mess. He dropped out of Princeton, his family kind of disowns him, and while he's working at his really crappy airport job, his coworker shows him a video of this new up-and-coming rapper called Paperboy, and how like his music's really blowing up lately. Ern sees this and he's like, wait, that's my cousin. So he realizes maybe this is my way to connect with my family more and to get out of this crappy job. So he gets out of that job and he tries to start managing his cousin, Alfred. And Alfred kind of has like this right-hand man called Darius, and he's such a weirdo. He brings a lot of eccentric comedy to the show, and he's just like the visionary, pretty much. Side note, I heard that he was going to be L in Death Note, which is kind of perfect, but kind of not. Watch the show and you'll get what I'm talking about. But so on the side of the actual music managing and everything, he has a daughter and I guess a baby mama, Vanessa. She's very intelligent and she is so gorgeous, but in like a natural way. I think they casted her perfectly. And she has her own episode and everything. She's a very interesting character, and it's interesting to see them interact because she still loves him, but she knows that she should probably move on because he's kind of a deadbeat and he's like kind of everywhere all the time, and he doesn't take care of the daughter like he should and everything. And yeah, that's pretty much the basis of the story. There are oftentimes a lot of very weird things that happen that don't really matter, kind of like what I talked about earlier, where it's very much like life, where not everything needs to matter and make sense. Like, there's one scene where Alfred and Darius, they go to try to sell weed like to this really outskirts person, and I mean, those are the Migos we know in real life, but they're very weird. Like, they just do a bunch of weird acts that don't really have any consequences, and it never comes up again. It may come up again, like maybe in a later season, because they got renewed for it almost immediately after the show premiered. But, you know, I don't know. It was just very weird, and we just never got an explanation for it. There's no reason for it. And I think the weirdest scene that I can think of out of the whole series was when Donald was on the bus. Ern was on the bus and with his daughter, and there's this guy next to him that was just kind of talking to him about his problems. And while he was talking, the guy was just making a Nutella sandwich, and he finally had finished it, and he's like, eat the sandwich. And Ern's just like, I don't know, man, I don't think I want to eat it. It's like, eat the sandwich. Ern's like, I'm good, dude. Just like, eat the sandwich, nigga. And he's just like, dude, like, come on. Like, he's just like freaked out at this point. And then the bus stops, and then like the lights flicker, and the guy's gone. And then when Ern's like, where did he go? And then while he's looking to find where the guy went, he sees him in the corner as the bus starts driving off, going into the forest with his dog. It's just weird. That's like the kind of things that happen in the show that don't really get explanations, and I appreciate that. because anybody that's living life in any sort of way, good or bad, we can name at least 10 things weird that we had saw and we just never got answers to. The 10 things that have happened to us that we never got answered for, like somebody just like skipping the country. Why did they do that? Like there's just a lot of different things. And I just think that's really cool that they incorporate that into the show. Again, piggybacking on the whole how not everything kind of relates, the episodes are kind of episodic. Like obviously, you know, each episode Ern is going to try to make Alfred more popular as Paperboy, and he's going to be his manager. Like there's an episode where he's trying to get the money from the guy owning the club that Paperboy is supposed to be performing at. There's an episode where they're at a basketball event to like perform, to kind of promote new rappers, and there is Justin Bieber, but it's not normal Justin Bieber. It's a black Justin Bieber. And whoever wrote that is a genius and needs a raise. Like I thought that was so hilarious. I could talk about the episodes for ages if I really wanted to, but I'm gonna just talk about one, which is episode 7 called Ban. I think it's like Black something network is what it stands for. And pretty much in this episode, I'm pretty much just warning you about this, because in this episode, pretty much Alfred is being interviewed like for Paperboy and just on this talk show. But the talk show has commercials. So it's like the makers of the show made commercials for the talk show in the show, but the commercials in the show blend seamlessly with the actual commercials for the Atlanta itself show. And it gets kind of confusing. And the people I was watching with did not like this at all. They hated that episode. I personally thought it was one of the most brilliant things on television, because it was just so funny seeing these kind of like mock commercials, and then also see that like we're watching a show within a show. It's really cool. One thing I didn't like about that episode was just that there was this one part, you'll know when it gets to it. It gets very preachy on a certain topic, because every episode of Atlanta kind of talks about a lot of like real issues like mental illness and transphobia and race issues in America and all this sort of thing. It talks about a lot of different like heavy topics, but they do it in such a graceful way. But in the band episode, there's this one part where they do talk about something very controversial, and they did a really good job, and then they dragged it out a little too long and made it a little too preachy, and I didn't really like it too much. You'll know when you see it. Another episode I'd really like to mention is episode, I think, 7, called Value, which I kind of spoke on earlier, which is Vanessa's standalone episode. This is the first episode of the series so far that Donald has directed. I think he directed the next episode after, but this is the first one he did as of then. And it just very much follows Vanessa throughout her life without any, like pretty much any implications and any sort of inclusion of any other character. Donald comes in at the end, but that's about it. And it's just very cool seeing her life, because we really only see it when Ern is around. And it's really, I don't know, it's really cool seeing that. And, you know, speaking on like characters that are like that, it's the character that I really feel needs more screen time is Darius. Because I feel like he has a really crazy backstory. Like we get a lot of Ern, obviously he's the main character. Vanessa has her own episode. Alfred is kind of in like every episode, because if you get Ern, you pretty much get Alfred. But with Darius, he's just been kind of in the coattails of both of them on every episode. And I really want to, he's had an episode where it was just him and Ern, which was cool, but I just want like a legitimate backstory. But at the same time, I can't fully ask for that, because I don't think anybody's gotten a backstory up until this point. So everybody's still moderately complicated. And I think in the second season, they'll explain it some more. Also, if you just check the reviews anywhere right now and then, everywhere it's at least 80% 4 out of 5. At least. I think Rotten Tomatoes is like 88, and IMDb I think is like 10 out of 10. It has really good scores. Everybody is loving this show. Like IGN does not cover too many shows, but they cover this show and they're just praising it. It is such a good show, and it deserves everything it has gotten. Please support my man Donald. I'm just really glad that this is finally happening, because I've always been a fan of Donald Glover, and it's really great to see him finally succeeding. And not only succeeding like you know, now he's going to be Lando in Star Wars, which is great, one of the biggest franchises ever, and he's going to be one of the main characters in it. That's awesome. But not only just that, I'm glad that he's able to not only be successful, but be successful in something that he created, and he has his hand over everything in it, and is starring in it. That's just great, and I'm so happy for him. And I just can't wait for future seasons. If I have to give this thing a score, it's biased, and I know it's wrong, but I would give this thing a 10 out of 10. I think it's a masterpiece, honestly. Those are my thoughts on Atlanta, and let me know what you guys think. Thumb it up if you like this video. Thumb it down if you didn't. Tell me why. Or maybe you just thumbed it down because you don't like Atlanta. I don't know. But you shouldn't, because Donald Glover's great. The show is great. And yes, just please go watch it. It's really good. And yeah, this has been Malcolm from Ray Reviews TV. I'll catch you guys next time. Boy,